Winston Churchill said, if two people agree on everything, one of them is unnecessary. If two people agree on everything, one of them is unnecessary. And because I believe that God has created everyone as being necessary, each and every one of you are necessary, that means we're probably not going to agree about everything. And that isn't always a bad thing. I'm so appreciative that some of my friends have not agreed with me in times in the past because they've actually saved me from doing some pretty stupid things. I love when they say to me, I don't think that is a very good idea. I don't think that's a very good idea, as that man is going to prune the branch of the tree with that handsaw. Notice what side of the branch he is sitting on, and he needs a friend who is not afraid to speak up and say to him, I don't think that is a very good idea. But the reality is, we may not always like when people don't agree with us. We may not like that people don't think like we do. I mean, in fact, there are times where I just feel downright angry that someone would dare to even question my brilliance. But that happens sometimes. And that isn't necessarily a bad thing. If there is anger because of disagreement, it means that it needs to be seriously looked at and taken into consideration, whatever is being said. I mean, listen to the prophet Jeremiah in chapter 38, verse 4. The officials said to the king, Jeremiah must be put to death, for he is demoralizing the soldiers who are left in the city, as well as all the other people there, by these things he is saying. Obviously, they didn't like what Jeremiah had to say. Obviously, Jeremiah wasn't thinking like they were thinking. Obviously, Jeremiah was not agreeing with them. But the reality is, boy, was Jeremiah necessary. Was he necessary? They needed to hear the message that he was speaking. He was warning them, if you keep down this road, you're going to end up in destruction. They didn't like the message. So he threw him in the muddy, mire, slimy pit. But the reality is, he was so right. He was so right. They needed to listen to his message, or they would have saved themselves from the destruction which ended up happening because they wouldn't listen to his message. The reality is, it is not always good for everyone to agree. There needs to be times of disagreement. There needs to be times of division when we are courageously speaking the truth that God has gifted to each and every one of us in different ways. You are necessary. You are necessary. If you understand this concept of what it means to speak out, and the results of that courage of speaking out might be, then you're going to understand today's Gospel of Luke, chapter 12, verse 51, when Jesus said, do you think that I have come to establish peace on the earth? No, I tell you, but rather division. Wasn't today's gospel such a beautiful feel-good gospel? Didn't you just love listening to what Jesus Christ had to say today? And out here is the Prince of Peace. No way. I tell you, but rather division. A household, 3 against 2 and 2 against 3. Father against son, mother against daughter, mother-in-law against daughter-in-law, and all the reverse. Jesus recognized that there needed to be a message preached that might shake the people up in coming to recognize how there needed to be change. There needed to be a difference of opinions if they were going to come to where God needed them to be. Jesus knew that his message wasn't always going to be a feel-good message, but sometimes we need to be shaken up. Sometimes we need a difficult message, even a message at times that's going to make us uncomfortable and angry. We need different opinions so that together we can come to a better understanding of the truth and what needs to be done. And so don't get weary and lose heart. As we heard in the letter to Hebrews chapter 12, verse 3, consider how Jesus endured such opposition from sinners in order that you may not grow weary and lose heart. We need to stay strong in our convictions. We need to recognize that God created each and every one of us to be necessary. You are necessary. You are necessary. Each and every one of you have been gifted by God in a special way with a piece of the truth that needs to be heard. So have the courage to share it. Even if you might suffer some opposition and difficulties, have the courage to share it. Don't grow weary and lose heart. You are necessary. You need to be heard. You're not redundant. You are necessary.